Tonight, I get to tackle one of the thorniest issues in American Christianity, the separation of church and state. The plain words of the First Amendment of the Constitution would seem to have decided the issue, but some scholars read it in a context that's quite different. One of those scholars is with us tonight. Dr. Robert Jeffress is the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Dallas, Texas. He ministers to 16,000 people at First Baptist Church, as well as to countless others through his television programs. Dr. Jeffress, great to welcome you back to the program, and Merry Christmas to you.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, and congratulations on your ambassadorship. We could not have a better person representing our president and our nation in Israel than you, so congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it. It does mean ending the show at some point, but can't do everything. But I'm very grateful that you're here, and I'm very hopeful that you'll continue to make your regular visits to Israel, and when you do, you will come see me. I will look for the time when you're showing up on my doorstep next year in Jerusalem, as they say.
Amen. We're planning that. Thank you.
Well, I want to get... Excellent. I want to get started. There's the phrase that we hear so often in our culture. It is not a phrase that is even in the Constitution, although I would say probably 8, maybe 9 out of 10 Americans would swear up and down it is in the Constitution. That phrase is separation of church and state. Do you believe there is such a thing? And if there is, what in the world does that mean?
There's absolutely no such thing. And people have twisted that phrase to refer to actually the separation of faith from public life, which is the real goal of every liberal. Look, the phrase separation of church and state, as you said, doesn't appear in the First Amendment. It doesn't appear in any amendment. It doesn't appear anywhere in the Constitution. It's a phrase that was used by Thomas Jefferson in a private letter to a group of Baptist in Danbury, Connecticut, who had heard a rumor that he was going to elevate as president the Congregational Church to be the church for America. And you know, Baptists get upset whenever they think somebody else is going to be in charge. And so they protested. And Thomas Jefferson said, no, we're not going to do such a thing. And anytime the government back then talked about the church and state, it was talking about denominations. The Bible, the Constitution prohibits anybody from elevating one Christian denomination over another. But Thomas Jefferson assured them that that was not going to be the case. But the fact is, Governor, and you know this well, America was founded as a Christian nation. Our forefathers said that unashamedly. And the Supreme Court in 1865 and in other times referred to America as a Christian nation. Now, the liberals, they want to erase and rewrite American history. And so their tactic is let's be sure Christians stay contained in the four walls of the church from 11 to 12 on Sunday mornings. If we can do that, we'll be okay. But if Christians ever start to vote their convictions, we're in big trouble. And look, in our Christian faith, we're supposed to influence every part of this universe. You know, there was a Dutch theologian named Abraham Kuyper who said, there's not one square inch of this universe over which Jesus Christ does not shout out, mine. This world belongs to God, and we as Christians have every right and every responsibility to influence every part of society.
Until 1972, America was on the gold standard, and what that meant was that all of our dollars were actually backed up by physical gold. We changed that, and as a result, gold actually became worth a great deal more because it means that it's going to hold value, even when the dollar, due to inflation, begins to shrink. It's one of the reasons that owning physical gold and silver makes a whole lot of sense for people who want to protect their wealth, who want to protect the things that they've worked so hard for their entire lives. Well, if you're going to buy gold and silver, I recommend you buy it from American Hartford Gold. It's who guides me on buying gold and silver. They're the only precious metals company that I would recommend. Now, you can call or text and request a free, no strings attached gold and silver information kit from American Hartford Gold. Learn how to protect your nest egg with a tax advantaged gold IRA. And you could get up to $15,000 worth of free silver on qualifying purchases. So call them at 844-417-1010 or text Mike to 998899 for a free information kit from American Hartford Gold. You've said it very, very well in just defining the separation of church and state. It's not a constitutional doctrine. It's not even in the Declaration of Independence. It's nowhere in our laws. But people still use that phrase as if somehow it's holy and absolutely applicable. But in reading Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptist Association, it really was the opposite of what people apply. It had more to do with saying, you and the church can say anything you want to, and you can say it to the government. But the government cannot speak to the church and dictate to it what its pastors can say or what its congregation can say. I heard years ago, and I thought it was the most powerful thing I ever heard about the Bill of Rights. Not one of the Bill of Rights restricts a citizen. In fact, every one of the Bill of Rights empowers the citizen. The restriction is on government. In every single one of the 10 First Amendments to the Constitution, we know them as the Bill of Rights, every one of them says what the government can't do, not what the people can't do. What's wrong with our culture where that's not clearly understood?
Well, we've got an ignorant culture, Governor, who don't know American history. They don't know the Constitution. They don't know the fact that the Supreme Court never used the phrase separation of church and state until 1947. You know, if it was such an instrumental part of our nation, why wasn't it used in any Supreme Court decision before 1947? It's because it's a figment of people's imagination. And that 1947 case, the Everson case, was one that tried to deny church or government support of the Catholic Church, and the Supreme Court ruled against it. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at that time was Hugo Black, who was happened to be a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And the only thing the Ku Klux Klan hated more than blacks were Catholics. And, Justice Clarence Thomas and others have recently pointed out that this court decision was an anti-Catholic decision. It was rooted in religious prejudice, and it deserves to be buried.
You have been very bold in taking positions politically from your pulpit. I'm sure there have been some people that got angry at you for being so outspoken. You felt, though, that that was a responsibility that you had as a pastor and as a Christian and as an American. When people criticize you for it, how do you respond to them?
Well, I don't care one bit what people say. I'm a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that is my duty and responsibility. But, we've had, like other churches, we had the group, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, come after us and threaten our tax exempt status. The IRS decided to try to make us a test case. We spent several years wrangling with them. And it happened to be because we had the then Vice President of the United States, who came and shared his Christian testimony from the pulpit. We were very careful to follow the IRS regulations. We didn't even mention he was a candidate for Vice President. He simply shared his testimony. And on that basis, the Freedom from Religion Foundation tried to remove our tax exempt status. What interesting is there was a Philadelphia church 3 days before the election that had then Joe Biden, who was running for president, had him come and campaign in the pulpit, have a campaign banner behind him. The pastor urged people to vote for him, and the IRS had nothing to say about that, but they wanted to come after us. Thankfully, we have a president now who's going to straighten all of that out, I believe, and make sure no church is prohibited in any way from sharing what is in our hearts. In fact, the president said that one time at a religious gathering. He said, I'm going to ensure that Robert and every pastor like Robert has the freedom to preach what is within our heart. And I think this emphasis on religious freedom by our new president is one of the reasons that he was reelected as president. He is committed to religious freedom.
Personal safety has become a major concern. So, wouldn't it be helpful to have a new and easy way to protect you and your loved ones? Well, one way to stop the threat without having to shoot and possibly kill someone is available. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee, and I found exactly how to have full protection without lethal force. It looks like a gun, acts like a gun, but it shoots chemical irritants and kinetic rounds, not actual bullets. The name is Byrna, B-Y-R-N-A. Now imagine being able to protect yourself without the legal or moral concerns of carrying an actual firearm. The Byrna is legal in all 50 states. No background checks are required, and it can be shipped directly to your doorstep. Most importantly, it's built to immediately stop an attacker without taking a life. The peace of mind you have is free. It's easy to use and doesn't have the strong recoil that real guns have, and you don't need ear protection either. It's assembled by hand right here in the U.S., fully trusted by law enforcement, and oftentimes it only needs to be shown and not fired to turn an attacker away. Don't wait until something happens. Go to Byrna.com/Huckabee and learn more about this effective alternative to deadly force. 500,000 are out there already, and right now you'll get a special 10% discount too. That's Byrna with a Y, Byrna.com/Huckabee. And don't feel vulnerable any longer.